Hello, Polytopians. Thanks for tuning in to the Polytopian Times. I'm your host, Sam, and today we're checking out a replay in from Tan11Pan and Bokoboy. They're showing off a really fun mirror match, Aquarion versus Aquarians. Let's see how that Trident spam plays out against each other. So let's jump right on in and ignore that was off in timing. All right. So we've had ourselves a whirlwind couple of first turns here. Taking a bit of a deeper look into things, let's see. We have ourselves Tan11Pan as our secondary darker aquarium player, and Boko is playing our traditional lighter player. Right now, Tan has gone ahead and gone with a more aggressive expansion start. So he's already got a rider off by turn 4, moving off towards this village in the corner. And we have a warrior headed north, just making first contact with our other player here, Boko. And at 3 stars per turn. Boko, meanwhile, has just upgraded and is now up at 5 stars per turn. A little bit less aggressive, still just trying to explore. Now it looks like Tan has made first contact and rushed out free diving there. We've got Boko popping down a workshop and just continuing to try and explore a little bit, while Tan is being a little more aggressive here, pushing up on Boko's second city there. And he's also being aggressive, expanding out and grabbing some more territory. Meanwhile, Boko's just sort of trying to hold off the tide right now, unfortunately. Rushing some chop right now with free diving. Getting a little bit of an economic bonus there. Meanwhile, Tan is focusing on exploring while keeping up some pressure. Looks like Boko is trying to rush some early tridents, maybe to turn around this early aggression from Tan. Meanwhile, I can see we've got a workshop up, and Tan's going for an economic growth point. He's at 7 stars per turn, actually equal to Boko right now, who's had to go tall rather than wide. Although we can see Tan's finally lined up to start leveling up a bunch of his villages, getting workshops down, so that eco is bound to grow and grow quickly. We're at 9 stars per turn right now, so up by 2. And we can see some pressure on Quotes, as well as some expansion from Boko, getting that first trident down, although we've got some rider spam from Tan, and he sees that trident as well. He's out exploring, IDing another open village, getting some level ups in the corner, and just in general trying to build up his eco up at 10 stars per turn, whereas Boko's still riding tall at 7 stars per turn, trying to use those tridents to maximum effect. I see another trident out. Now, Boko's kind of falling into the aggro hole right now. Overall, not bad plays, definitely pressured early on, but trident spam this early on might be a bit much, honestly. You'd be better off just putting out some warriors in the front line and riders in the back line just to try and out-expand Tan, who is certainly focused on expansion himself. We can see 13 to 7 stars now. That economic divide is just growing. Curious that he didn't opt to try and take the village then and there. But Boko doesn't quite know what Tan has, other than lots of score. That Explorer is at least a nice play that'll show him a decent part of the map and help him expand a little more easily. Whereas Tan hasn't really gone for any Explorers yet. But being aggressive against Boko has worked out so far. Those riders are going just fine to the north. We can see warriors up in that close city at Quotes are keeping up the pressure on Duckwell and at a low price. And Trident spam's just not much of a counter to much more sufficient rider spam. We can see Tan's going to have to claim that free village and another one over here. He's got sparing himself, so soon we will see tridents from Tan coming out, while Boko is doing his best to try and grab a few free expansions. Killing that rider was nice at least, and moving to finally take that free village and grab another one. So that should hopefully equal out the economic and production disparity that we've seen thus far. Tan's still getting quite a bit of expansion going forth, and now we are at 16 stars per turn. Nice. Getting another village on top of that, whereas Boko's still at 9, but has 3 villages and is about to claim 2 more. So we'll see how that economic game switches around as things go. We're up at 11 stars per turn now. 12, and that is an explorer. And let's see, that explorer is getting plenty of exploration done, seeing a good bit of Tan's empire. At this point, Boko can definitely see a good bit of what's going on. Unfortunately, his frontline tridents are still taking lots of hits. They are bad at defense, so that's certainly the last thing you want to happen to your tridents. And that warrior pressure is really more than enough to keep Boko on his toes. You know, there's too much pressure on that border city. Getting some good kills with that trident, though, and finally switching over to warriors to help keep Tan back a little bit more while trying to push for more expansion in the north, which Boko desperately needs. If he's going to turn this around, he needs to own a lot more territory. See, we're getting some eco up, at least, at 15 stars per turn. However, Tan's already at 19, moving towards 20 and grabbing a few more villages. Got the same amount of techs, largely. You know, at this moment, it's still pretty open in the air, though. Oh, that was a nice move with the amphibian there. And in general, just keeping up that economic snowball, that's going to really pay off in the long run here. And that was a pretty simple city save, especially once you have tridents to do that with. Unfortunately, Boko was unable to push on that northern amphibian who's going to claim another free village for Tan. And Tan's only growing stronger in his eco, up at 22 stars per turn right now. See, that is kind of the disparity. I think the big split early on was Boko going more towards the aggro hole with that trident rush early on, whereas Tan was focused on popping out a few extra stars per turn and expanding into new villages, which has certainly paid off for him. And we are now at a 7-star per turn disparity, with Boko only at 15, 16 stars per turn now, at least. Still building up, trying to catch up, and keep the pressure going. It looks like the last few open cities are getting squabbled with over in the north right now. Now, Boko does have superior numbers out that way. And let's see, there's another village up in the north. That brings us up to 19 stars per turn. Unfortunately, it kind of pales compared to Tan's 26 stars per turn, which are going to fund quite a bit of conquest. Nice play with that amphibian, just making sure that Boko can't get any reinforcements with decent health in the area, keeping his local force levels low out to the east there. Meanwhile, in the northwest, we see a bit of a meat grinder, a lot of hits going on. Tan's found himself another village and is using a warrior to ford up against the trident and amphibian spam out that way. Meanwhile, Boko's trying to use his tridents to just weaken Tan, getting a nice shot off on one of Tan's tridents with his own before running off, and starting to get some ports down now, building up his eco, and giving him some opportunity to maybe whip up some battleships later on in the game, up at 21 stars per turn now, catching up, but still got the lead for Tan at 27 stars per turn. Just getting climbing. And that'll be good for revealing a lot of the territory you can't reach otherwise, and getting a lot of good hits with those tridentians. Oh, let's see. And that is an invasion, folks. Ooh, very nice, very nice. Getting lots of juicy hits in, sneaking in with that amphibian, just getting some extra damage to that trident before switching over to Boko's turn. Boko now has to save Ikoid, which is taken by that trident. He's also pushing to take a couple more villages and just try and keep pressure in the east on his side. Trying to prevent Tan from getting too many forces and getting that last open village. Unfortunately, Boko wasn't able to retake Ikeid, so that's going to go to Tan, putting him up towards 30 stars per turn now, and definitely giving him map control. And that's going to be especially problematic because Ikeid is a nice foothold close to Boko's capital, which is not going to work out for Boko quite as well. And we can see plenty of tridents coming up from Tan. He's building up force in the central south, getting ready to push towards Dagaid and then deeper into Boko's capital. Boko, meanwhile, has made his first ship and used that in combination with a trident to save his city. And we can see he's putting out more tridents and riders while he's at it. Getting up some workshop, just trying to continue to snowball his eco. Meanwhile, Tan is down to 27 stars per turn. Although we can see he has pushed back and reclaimed his village, so that's no longer under any siege pressure. Oh, very nice, and we have another siege of Dakaid, and it looks like Tan is going to claim that last free village in the east, whilst he is whipping out some more Tridentians to go and continue the fight against Boko in Boko's own borders there. Very nice, very nice. And we've got plenty of stray shots coming in. That ship's doing some damage and clearing it out with the Trident. Tridents are great for defense purposes, so Boko's definitely going to have an easier time on defense when it comes to rushing in, killing the sieging unit, and then rushing out without taking any damage, or at least much of it. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough to make a core difference, though. I see Boko's got a crab out now. Unfortunately, crabs aren't super useful, even against other aquarium players, so that thing is likely to die well before it reaches any valuable targets. At least it'll soak up some fire there, hopefully. And we can see Tan is pushing hard on what forces Boko has now, at 30 stars per turn still. Although that is about to go up a little bit more. Let's see, it's another workshop. That puts us at 33 stars per turn. Certainly an advantage over Boko's 20 stars per turn and more limited cities, meaning more limited unit production too. Although Boko is rushing out another giant. That's another crab, and he's at 26 stars per turn right now. Going to be necessary to at least give him some breathing room against all those tridents that Tan is sending out. And speaking of, those tridents are just going to take free shots on these very slow, very vulnerable crabs. In fact, I would say it doesn't appear that the crab's going to make it more than a turn. Not even going to make it out of the borders of its own starting city. Meanwhile, Tan's got his own tridents moving further and further in, and he's building up his eco in the back, getting his own crab out at 34 stars per turn right now, 35. And that is continuing to snowball. He's had the advantage in economy the whole game, and I think that is going to be what may or may not give him the win here. And it does look like the win's going towards Tan right now. Boko's been fighting valiantly, but unfortunately that early fall into the aggro hole looks like it may have caused him the ultimate loss. And you see a peace treaty being spammed out there. Not sure why you would. Tan is in a victory position right now. And if Boko's sending it to Tan, well, Tan is not likely to accept, given he would really like to take Dokaid. And here we are. A couple more shots going off. Tan is pretty much locked down the entire east by now. He's pressuring the north, and most importantly, pressuring the center, pushing towards Boko's capital. Boko, meanwhile, is doing his best to embark as many units as he can. He's switching over to a defender navy now. They'll certainly have better defensive capabilities than Tridentians. But, if we're going to be honest, Tridentians are going to have far better offensive capabilities. And in Tan's hands right now, we're going to see them really just earn their reputation for being masters of the offense. And here we see we are clearing out as many forces as possible, resieging Dokaid, except this time, Boko doesn't really have anything he can pull out to stop the siege from succeeding. Oh, grabbing a last little village in the corner there that he'd overlooked earlier. Oh, that's Tan. And that means he's circling around, giving him the juiciest foothold on Boko's capital possible. If we weren't already lost before, that right there is likely the sign of it. That city to the southeast is going to be the perfect place to attack Atakit from. And unfortunately, ship spam's not going to be able to change the tide here. I see Boko continuing to try to trick Tan into signing a peace deal, thus ending his potential conquest and buy himself some time. But Tan is savvy to that and has been rejecting those offers the entire time through. He is focusing his forces on breaking through and taking Dokaid, while continuing to push tridents out of Intik towards Atatik, the Boko's capital there. We can see trident spam moving up in the north too to keep up pressure and start sieging some of those vulnerable cities, while Boko is kind of focused more towards his capital right now. And rightfully so. And we can see Boko's kind of in a moment where he's got to scramble. He's still got 26 stars per turn, but unfortunately none of his reinforcements are really making any difference at all. Most of them are getting ground up well before they can get into a proper fight. And he just doesn't have the capability to catch up. We see Tan's already at 40 stars per turn, starting with 52 this turn, and getting shots in at Boko's capital now. And we can see he's also pushing on Dokaid. Let's see, is Tan going to actually take the city, or is he going to continue trying to weaken Boko's defensive forces before he pushes for a siege? I see he is taking over the city in the north now, having weakened down that periphery city. And he's moving up a crab ever closer. No, we do see a siege of Dokaid too, so that's 2 cities across Boko's borders, and Boko's already hard-pressed. This is going to be very rough. Ooh, and we've got roads in, meaning reinforcements are only going to be able to speed in faster and faster as the game goes on. Interesting. Another peace treaty sent out. Unfortunately, Tan is not interested. Instead, he is going to focus in on taking over the capital now. And there we have it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, that is game. I'd have to say it's pretty well played by both players, but Boko did make a slight mistake, and that was early on when he went full force into rushing tridents and trying to counter that way. It's tempting, but unfortunately, that is the aggro hole, and the aggro hole never pays off. You'll often find that you're better off investing in your economy, much like Tan did, because later on down the line, it will allow you to overwhelm your opponent in a way they just can't counter because they can't produce at the same level. And I believe that is it. There we are, game. That is the taking of the capital. Overall, pretty fun game. Got to give call-outs to both Tan11Pan and Boko there. They were playing very nicely. And thanks as always for tuning in, Polytopians. It's always a pleasure having you here, and until next time, I'll see ya.